am Magneto, master of magnet. Come to die!
Bruce here, folks. Do you guys remember punching your way through waves of goons, mutants, cyborgs, and whatever else the arcade gods threw at you back in the good old days? Good, because this video's got 28 ultra-violent beat-em-ups that absolutely did not hold back. We're talking broken jaws, flying limbs, steel pipes to the face, and boss fights so nasty they'll still make your palms sweat. These were digital street wars. Some are still classics, some are criminally forgotten, and all of them hit hard. So let's take a swing at the brawlers that gave coin-op Carnage real meaning. Night Slashers. We're starting with a horror-soaked throwdown that doesn't pull its punches. This grotesque gem saw Data East unleash Night Slashers onto arcade cabinets, where fists and gore flew in glorious tandem. Players choose from three monster-slaying legends: Jake, a cyborg bruiser with thunder in his veins; Christopher, a cross-wielding martial artist who freezes foes mid-scream; and Hong Hua, a blazing fast mystic with fire to spare. In the 2024 remake by Storm Trident and Forever Entertainment, Liu Feilin joins the party, straight from fighter's history, packing opera flair and deadly mantis-style carnage. Unlike your average street brawler, this game bathes its gothic stages in blood, literally. The Japanese version spilled red plasma, while international releases offered a violence toggle, because green blood just doesn't hit the same. Every level throws endless waves of undead, vampires, werewolves, and elemental freaks at you, ending with mini horror bosses like a mummy, mad scientist, or Dracula himself. Between scenes, cinematic cutscenes serve extra lore and twisted flavour. The screen won't scroll until you paint it with enemy entrails, classic arcade lore. The game is available now on PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. The 2024 remake resurrects the chaos in full HD. The Punisher. Moving on to Capcom's 1993 arcade hit, The Punisher dropped like a grenade into the beat-em-up scene, stylish, savage, and soaked in righteous vengeance. You step into Frank Castle's boots after his family is gunned down during a mob hit gone wrong. Joined by Nick Fury, because two angry guys with guns are better than one, you're sent headfirst into an urban massacre to dismantle Kingpin's criminal empire piece by bloody piece. Gameplay borrows from Capcom's Final Fight blueprint, but ups the violence to a glorious 11. Forget just fists. Baseball bats, katanas, Ingrams, flamethrowers, and grenades are at your disposal. When enemy gunmen show up, Castle draws heat and lets bullets fly. You'll mow down mafia goons, robot assassins, cyborg freaks, and comic book villains like Bushwhacker and Jigsaw, all rendered in glorious comic book style with blam and crunch exploding across the screen. The Genesis port, developed by Sculptured Software, toned down the carnage and flopped hard. Stick with the arcade original if you want the real deal. No censored punches, no filters, just raw, explosive punishment dished out in gritty pixel perfection. Splatterhouse. Now let's tear into a game that gave 1980s arcades a horror flick you could actually play. Namco's Splatterhouse, unleashed in 1988, was like if Evil Dead and Friday the 13th all combined into one. Only now, you were the unstoppable brute in the hockey mask. Playing as Rick, a parapsychology student reanimated by a cursed Mayan artifact called the Terror Mask. You tear through the haunted mansion in a rage-fueled bloodbath, trying to rescue your doomed girlfriend, Jennifer. Gameplay leans on classic beat-em-up foundations, side-scrolling, monster-bashing mayhem, but tosses in horror-infused twists. Rick can punch, kick, drop-kick slide through enemies, and wield all kinds of blunt trauma tools, wooden planks, shotguns, meat cleavers. And don't expect cheap win tactics. This game sends you back to checkpoints if you fail, making every splatter count. The visuals are dripping with grotesque charm. Possessed wombs, birthing fetuses, transforming lovers, and sentient architecture trying to kill you. Boss fights makes you splatter possessed furniture, while a possessed painting laughs maniacally. Originally hitting arcades, Splatterhouse was ported to the TurboGrafx 16 and later resurfaced in the Namco Museum compilations. It's brutal, it's absurdly gory, and thanks to its hell mask, it doesn't stay dead for long. Oh boy, this game really made arcadey cabinets feel like medieval execution chambers in its time. It was released by Exidy in 1986 and is equivalent of a snuff film shot through a haunted carnival ride. Unlike typical light gun shooters where you blast zombies or enemy soldiers, here you're not the hero, you're the torturer. Your job? Kill helpless victims as quickly and gruesomely as possible using medieval instruments of horror. Yep, it's that messed up. The first two stages toss morality out the window. Apart from fending off monsters, you're blowing limbs off bound humans. But the real challenge isn't just point and shoot. It's discovering which levers, traps, or contraptions will turn your NPCs into meat confetti the fastest. Guillotines, acid pits, iron maidens. If it maims, it's fair game. Later levels dip into supernatural territory with ghouls, mummies, and ghosts, but the grotesque core remains. A slot machine between stages adds a bizarre Vegas flair to your spree. If your score's high enough, you're treated to a bonus round of lightning-fast target shooting. It flopped in the US, no surprise, but found traction in overseas markets less squeamish about digitized torture. A port in 1990, unlicensed, naturally, with support for both the standard controller and NES Zapper. Alien vs. Predator. If cyber-enhanced Marines, plasma cannon-wielding aliens, and a whole lot of bug guts screaming is your vibe, this one's for you. Capcom's 1994 release is everything fans of the franchise dreamed of. Xenomorphs exploding under Predator blades, Marines unloading smart guns, and tag-team violence on a galactic scale. Built on the CPS2 system, this side-scrolling beat-em-up was arcade exclusive. Never officially ported to home consoles, making it a holy grail of coin-op brutality. Set in a xenomorph-infested San Drad, California, you choose from 4 playable characters. Cybernetic Major Dutch, a nod to Schwarzenegger, katana-wielding Lieutenant Lin Kurosawa, or one of 2 brutal predators, the Hunter and the Warrior. Dutch crushes with his bionic arm and smart gun. Lin slashes and reloads fast, but leaves herself wide open. And the predators? They come packing shoulder cannons, blades, and brutal alien tech. Gameplay is much more than just mash to win. There's juggling, combos, and the constant push to manage ammo meters while dodging acid-dripping hordes. Enemy variety spans rogue soldiers to biomechanical monstrosities. Bosses? Think multi-screen alien queens and bioengineered nightmares. Flamethrowers and grenade launchers are scattered around like candy, but they burn out quick. Violent Storm. Konami's Violent Storm throws you head first into a post-World War III wasteland, where society's holding on by a thread and every thug on the street wants to cave in your skull. You play as one of three justice-punching legends, Wade, Boris, or Kyle, battling through a punk apocalypse to rescue your kidnapped friend, Sheena, from the clutches of the Geld Gang's maniacal boss, Lord Geld. The heroes are wired differently. Wade's your all-rounder with crisp uppercuts, Kyle zips through enemies with lightning-fast kicks, and Boris breaks people, massive throws, backbreakers, and the only guy who can lift and slam any boss like they're a ragdoll. Up to 3 players can fight side by side, which means 3 times the fists, chaos, and carnage. Across 7 punishing stages, from crumbling cities and bar brawls with trapdoors to a steel furnace where molten death drips from the ceiling, you'll be dodging electric bolts, getting bombed by bikers, and smashing enemies through gas and brick. Enemy fights are ridiculous. We're talking chain-wielding freaks, human shields made from manhole covers, and orange mohawked psychos with more attitude than sense. Captain Commando. Coming in hot with jet-powered baby fists, spinning mummies, and energy-gloved justice, this game drops players into the neon-lit chaos of Metro City 2026, where the streets are crawling with mutants, cyborg freaks, and space criminals. It's not just Earth on the line. This is a cleanup job for the entire galaxy. Players step into the boots, or hover mech, of 4 wildly different heroes. The electrified fist slinger Captain Commando, bandage-wielding alien Mac the Knife, katana-slicing ninja Ginzu, and a genius infant piloting a missile-packing exosuit known as Baby Head. Across 9 packed stages, players fight through toxic sewers, enemy labs, and alien spacecraft using dash attacks, throwable weapons, rideable robots, and character-specific specials. Unlike its cousin Final Fight, weapons carry over between areas, and even the health pickups feel like they're daring you to survive just a little longer. Between the melting blades, fire-spewing mechs, and gravity-defying ninjutsu, this one's a full-on sci-fi street war. First launched in arcades and later included in the Capcom Beat 'em Up Bundle 2018 for PS4, Switch, Xbox One, and PC, Captain Commando still delivers over-the-top action with no shortage of wild personality. Warriors of Fate. This game had us battling with polearms, firebombs, and whatnot. We go into an all-out war where fists, swords, and flaming arrows settle the score. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up dressed as an epic battlefield saga, and while it draws heavily from China's Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the Western release strips out the historical nuance in favour of a Mongol-inspired fantasy warlord named Akila Orkan and his unstoppable invasion of Shanglo. Either way, the mission's the same. Bash through 9 brutal stages and stop a tyrant. Playable solo or with up to 2 allies, you'll command 5 warrior giants, each armed with unique throws, devastating combos, and full control of mounted combat. Summon a warhorse mid-fight, and suddenly you're cleaving enemies with a pole arm like a mobile guillotine. From archers on rooftops to spear-wielding mobs and exploding monks, every stage escalates into a war zone. Boss fights pit you against legends like Xu Huang and the monstrous Lu Bu before culminating in a showdown with Cao Cao, or Aquila, depending on the version. Originally developed for Capcom's CPS Dash system, the game later galloped onto the Sega Saturn and PlayStation in Japan, and is now available globally via the Capcom Beat 'em Up Bundle and Arcade Stadium. History books never hit this hard.
Yeah! Bingo!
Smash TV. Designed by Eugene Jarvis and published by Williams Electronics, this twin-stick arcade classic turns hyper-violence into prime-time entertainment. In the glorious future of 1999, you play as a contestant on the deadliest game show in history, dodging buzzsaws, grenades, and mutant enemies while grabbing cash, gold bars, and toasters. Armed with dual joysticks, one for movement, one for shooting, you clear room after room of wave-spawning enemies. Power-ups like scatter shots, shurikens, and shields turn you into a death-dealing tank. But don't blink. One wrong step, and it's game over. Thankfully, quarters buy you another life, making the cabinet one of the most profitable and punishing of its era. Every level ended with a boss battle. Robotic snakes, massive tanks, or the game's sneering host who taunts you with lines like "Total Carnage, I love it." The real prize? Survive long enough, collect enough keys, and you'll unlock the infamous Pleasure Dome filled with pixelated money prizes and a not-so-subtle Babe bonus. Available as Super Smash TV on SNES, Genesis Master System and Game Gear, this one's still a savage swipe at consumerism and an absolute blast. Time Killers. Alright, this one's kinda gnarly. Time Killers hit arcades in 1992, riding that early 90s wave of fighting game mania. But the big deal was the decapitations and limb as part of the core combat. Developed by Incredible Technologies and published by Strata, it's one of the first weapon-based fighters to follow Street Fighter II's formula. For the story, Death selects 8 heroic warriors from history, pitting them in combat with one another. Whoever is victorious faces death for a final showdown, with immortality as the reward for success. Instead of fancy martial arts duels, you got a bloody battlefield where an opponent's arm might go flying mid-match. The control scheme ditched punch/kick buttons altogether. Instead, every limb, including the head, had its own button. Losing an arm? Totally possible mid-fight. Try blocking without arms. Spoiler, you can't. Vikings, Space Marines, and samurais hacked at each other with swords, chainsaws, and battle axes. And yes, death is the final boss. Literally. Players could attempt death moves anytime by mashing all 5 buttons. Land it, and it's an instant decapitation. A special super death move went even harder, both arms and the head gone in one vicious strike. Originally an arcade-only title, Time Killers limped onto the Sega Genesis in 1996 to terrible reviews, but found second life with a 2021 arcade port. Final Fight. Alright, let's go back to where beat-em-ups really blew up. This game dropped into arcades in 1989, and honestly, everything changed after that. Originally pitched as a sequel to Street Fighter, Capcom pivoted into side-scrolling mayhem instead. And it paid off. Set in the grimy, gang-ruled streets of Metro City, the game lets you pick from 3 brawlers: Cody, a street-tough boyfriend; Guy, a ninja in sneakers; or Mayor Mike Hager, who's built like a tank and rocks a moustache that could win bar fights on its own. Gameplay's simple but addictive. 2 buttons, 1 joystick, and the chance to clean house with punches, flying kicks, and spin attacks. Cody stabs better. Guy wall jumps like a ninja should. And Hager's pile driver is basically a meteor strike. Break barrels to find swords, knives, and roast chicken, classic street cuisine, and then smash your way through 6 increasingly chaotic levels, including a subway brawl and a skyscraper boss fight with a crossbow-wielding crime lord in a wheelchair. The game's success was wild. 30,000 arcade units sold, millions of SNES cartridges shipped, and a legacy that spilled into Street Fighter Alpha. Streets of Rage. You know that one game everyone passed around on the schoolyard like a secret code? Yeah, this was one of those. Released in 1991 for the Sega Genesis, Streets of Rage was kind of Sega's answer to Final Fight. It was a full-on street brawl that carved its own legacy. You play as one of 3 ex-cops, Axel, Blaze or Adam, who ditch their badges to take on a city overrun by Mr. X's crime syndicate. 8 levels of pure, dirty, uppercut-heavy justice. Combat was surprisingly deep for its time. The characters have access to around 40 moves, from suplexes and back kicks to synchronized co-op throws if you're playing with a buddy. Weapons? Oh yeah, glass bottles, lead pipes, baseball bats. Basically, anything you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. And just when you're surrounded, you can call in your old pals at the precinct to rain fire from a rocket-launching police cruiser. What really made it click, though, was the vibe. Yuzo Koshiro's techno-funk soundtrack turned each level into a pumping club fight, and the pixel art practically oozed 90s grit. It later got ported to Game Gear, Master System, and Sega CD, and it's still getting love through collections and digital re-releases. Pure street fighting comfort food and a co-op classic for the ages.
X-Men.
X-Men. This was that glorious arcade cabinet with 2 screens and 6 joysticks, lined up like a mutant-powered buffet. Based on the pride of the X-Men pilot, this beat-em-up let you play as Cyclops, Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Nightcrawler or Dazzler, all on a mission to take down Magneto and save Professor X and Kitty Pryde. The heroes had basic punches and kicks, but the real spice came from their mutant powers, screen-clearing attacks that could vaporize entire enemy squads. Cyclops blasted optic rage, Colossus sent shockwaves, Storm summoned lightning, and Nightcrawler teleported through enemies. Use them wisely, though. Each power drained your health unless you grabbed a bonus power-up or just shoved in more quarters like the rest of us. The levels spanned sentinel-filled streets, lava-spewing labs, and Asteroid M, packed with villains like Pyro, Wendigo, Juggernaut, and Mystique. The action was chaotic, colourful, and filled with shouty dialogue like "Welcome to Die" from Magneto, which somehow made perfect sense at the time. Originally arcade-only, it finally made it to PS3, Xbox 360, and mobile in 2010, but was delisted by 2013. Still, this one lives rent-free in every arcade kid's memory bank.
Fire! Hang on, April!
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's be real. If you were alive near an arcade in the 90s, you definitely saw this one lighting up screens and chewing through quarters. Konami's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, released in 1989, was a 4-player co-op dream that let you step into the shells of Leo, Mikey, Donnie, or Raph and unleash cartoon-accurate beatdowns on the Foot Clan. Based on the wildly popular animated series, it was pure Saturday morning energy turned full contact. The gameplay was classic beat-em-up chaos. Donatello's staff had reach, Raphael hit fast, Michelangelo had speed too, and Leonardo stayed balanced in all the right ways. You fought across multiple stages, from burning buildings to technodromes, hitting foot soldiers so hard they flew into the screen or bounced off walls like action figures. Power moves included sweep attacks, throws, and special jump strikes triggered by pressing jump plus attack together. Exploding barrels, destructible hydrants, and wall jumps kept things kinetic, while bosses like Bebop, Rocksteady, and Krang gave each level a strong finish. And of course, Shredder waited at the top, sometimes cloning himself for good measure. Originally arcade only, it later got ported to the NES as TMNT2, the arcade game, and has since resurfaced in the Cowabunga collection with cheat toggles and quality of life updates.
Final uppercut!
Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Alright, now this is a world where dinosaurs roam the streets, mercenaries carry rocket launchers, and your main ride is a classic Cadillac. Yep, it's that kind of game. Capcom's Cadillacs and Dinosaurs hit arcades in 1993 and immediately felt like a fever dream you didn't want to wake up from. Based on Mark Schultz's Xenozoic Tales, it throws you into a post-apocalyptic 26th century where poachers called the Black Marketeers are illegally hunting dinosaurs, turning the planet and the creatures hostile. The only ones crazy enough to stop them: a mechanic, a diplomat, an engineer, and a dude named Mess. Gameplay supported up to 3 players and offered 4 characters: Jack, balanced; Hannah, technical and fast; Mustafa, lightning speed and bicycle kicks; and Mess, just pure muscle. The characters had 2 special moves and could pick up guns, explosives, clubs, and, yes, rocks. You get to slam through 8 stages, smashing through enemies, dodging angry triceratops, and wiping the floor with poachers, freaks, mutants, and eventually a rogue scientist turning people into dinosaur hybrids. Every boss fight escalates, from Vice's rooftop ambush to Butcher in the swamp, Hog in the desert, and eventually Dr. Fessenden himself, who turns into a horrifying 3-headed bio-beast in a collapsing lab. Fail to continue? You get a gun pointed right at your face with a countdown. This was never ported to consoles, but it lives on in emulation, arcade legend, and the minds of anyone who remembers slapping start just to dropkick someone off a dino. Knights of the Round. So yeah, if you've ever wondered what a medieval beat-em-up with RPG gear progression feels like, this is your stop. Knights of the Round, released by Capcom in 1991, takes the King Arthur legend and turns it into a side-scrolling slugfest with swords, shields, and some serious boss-blocking mechanics. You've got 3 playable knights: Arthur, your balanced all-rounder; Lancelot, fast but hits light; and Percival, slow, bearded, and built like a warhorse. As you fight your way through 7 stages of goblins, knights, and warlords, your character levels up, literally transforming visually. New armor, new weapons, and upgraded attacks make you feel the progression in every slash. Arthur goes from chainmail to golden-plated royalty, and Percival basically evolves into a walking battering ram with a giant axe. Press away from an attack at just the right time, and you'll deflect it, get a short invincibility window, and open the enemy up for counterattacks. Some bosses can't even damage them unless you block first. You can even mount a horse mid-stage and swing weapons from horseback, or stomp enemies just for fun. Originally arcade only, it later joined the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle and Arcade Stadium collections. Knights, leveling, mounted combat. It's Arthurian legend, but make it loud, fast, and pixel punishing. Mystic Warriors. Our next one on the list has got snowboarding ninjas, laser traps, and a whole lot of shurikens. So yeah, things escalate quickly. This game, released in arcades by Konami in 1993, is what happens when the slick shoot-and-slash gameplay of Sunset Riders gets shoved into a dystopian ninja apocalypse. You pick one of 5 color-coded ninja heroes, Spiros, Kima, Kojiro, Brad, or Yuri, and take on the Skull Enterprise, a mega-evil organization hell-bent on world domination. Because of course they are. The characters fight with unlimited throwing weapons that vary in style and power, and you can upgrade them mid-mission with box-dropped power-ups. Food items like sushi or sukiyaki restore health. Orbs give screen-clearing powers or temporary shields, and the occasional piece of bling boosts your score. You can jump, slide, melee, and even switch characters after dying, which was a surprisingly fresh twist for the genre. Stages range from cyberpunk skyscrapers to snowy mountains where, yes, Yuri literally snowboards while throwing knives at enemies. Every level ends with a stylish boss showdown, complete with a stat screen to show who landed the most hits. Originally arcade only, it didn't get a home release until Arcade Archives brought it to Switch and PS4 in late 2023. Stylish, fast, and kind of heartbreaking, especially when one of your squad sacrifices themselves mid-game. It's one of Konami's underrated greats. Metamorphic Force. This one kind of feels like Saturday morning cartoons had a violent fever dream, and honestly, we're here for it. Metamorphic Force, released by Konami in arcades in August 1993, 4 heroes are chosen by Athena herself to stop an undead ruler named King Death Shadow. Their weapon? The power to morph into werebeasts, because punching frogmen is always better when you've got claws. You've got Ban, the Minotaur brawling martial artist, Claude, a rapier-wielding white werewolf, Max, a boxing panther man, and Ivan, a tree-log-swinging werebear. You shift into beast mode by grabbing golden statues that either fall from the sky or get handed over, sometimes unwillingly, by a sketchy, elf-like rodent NPC. Already transformed, snagging another statue nukes every enemy on screen, boss included. Combat feels tight. Slides, combos, and crowd control specials all hit with satisfying weight. Enemy design is pure monster mayhem. Lizardmen, flaming rooster samurai, ram-headed demons, and hulking warthog brutes. Stages even include bonus rounds where you can crush statues or mobs for score boosts. After being arcade-only for decades, it finally got a port via Arcade Archives in 2024 for modern consoles. If you've ever wanted to suplex a flaming chicken while dressed as a werepanther, this is your moment. Dungeons & Dragons, Tower of Doom. If your idea of a beat-em-up involves dragons, spell slots, and inventory management, this one's got your name written in runes. Released by Capcom in 1992, Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom brought the tabletop world of Mystara into arcades with all the role-play and screen-clearing melee chaos. 4 adventurers, the fighter, cleric, elf, and dwarf, band together to push back a growing monster invasion across Darokin, culminating in a showdown against the Archlich Demos in his ominous tower. Cue the dramatic lightning. It was the mechanics that made this game stand out. Players could block, crouch, dash, use directional attacks, and even choose branching paths, so each playthrough offered something slightly different. Throwing daggers, setting oil ablaze, casting spells, it all came down to your class. Want crowd control and holy light? Pick the cleric. Prefer to spam lightning bolt and get bullied in close combat? Elf's your pick. The dwarf, a rapid attack bruiser with short reach. And the fighter? He's your tank with big HP and solid range. Enemies weren't your usual thugs either. Trolls had to be burned to stay dead. Dragons blanketed the screen in fire, and the beholder could ruin your day with a single I-beam combo. Originally arcade only, it later came to Sega Saturn with two-player co-op, and got revived again in 2013 via Chronicles of Mystara for modern platforms. For a game with 16-bit sprites, it delivered that classic tabletop roll initiative and prey energy, and then some. Crime fighters. Nobody wants to get jumped in a subway by 6 punks with knives, only to realize you just kicked your own teammate in the face by accident. But welcome to Crime Fighters. Released by Konami in 1989, this side-scrolling brawler threw up to 4 players into the roughest streets imaginable. You play as pallet-swapped undercover cops on a mission to rescue kidnapped women from a crime lord who clearly watched the Warriors too many times. And unlike its sibling TMNT, everyone here is the same dude, just in different pants. Gameplay-wise, it leans more brutal than flashy. Health drains over time. Yep, just standing still costs you. And in 4-player mode, friendly fire is very real and very permanent. You get basic punches, kicks, and the always satisfying spin kick by pressing both buttons. Downed enemies? You're encouraged to keep kicking. There's even a groin stun mechanic because subtlety is for RPGs. Enemies escalate fast, from thugs with pipes and knives to dudes straight up packing heat. You can disarm them and keep the weapon until you take a hit and it vanishes forever. Unless you're in 4-player mode, then that handgun stays until it's dry. The final boss offers you a key. Take it, and he pulls out a machine gun. Refuse, and you can beat him senseless with your fists. And just when you think it's over, the game throws every boss back at you at once. No breaks, no mercy. Vendetta. This one kicks off like a low-budget action flick, but turns into one of the most unhinged brawlers to ever hit arcades. And that's a compliment. Vendetta, known in Japan as Crime Fighters 2, is Konami's beefed-up follow-up to Crime Fighters, though internationally it was marketed as a standalone beat-em-up. And trust me, it stands out. You play as one of the 4 members of the Cobras, a vigilante crew of ex-fighters on a mission to rescue their kidnapped comrade Kate from the criminal meat grinder that is Dead End City. The characters got their own backstory, but they all throw hands equally hard. Whether you're Blood the ex-prize fighter, Boomer the martial artist, Hawk the wrestler, or Sledge the ex-con with military brawler energy. Unlike most games in the genre, Vendetta doesn't include a jump button. Instead, you've got punch, kick, and a brutal punch plus kick combo that doubles as your only airborne attack, but costs a chunk of health each time you use it. You can stomp enemies while they're down, chuck bottles, stab punks, swing bats, and yes, pick up a shotgun and just start blasting. Enemies double team you, try to pin you down, and aren't afraid to rush in with dogs, flamethrowers, or chains. It's relentless. After you beat Faust, the boss of the Dead End gang, you'd think that's it. But no, every boss returns at once for a climactic mob fight. Survive that, and the game loops forever, each round nastier than the last. It was controversial for its violence and some character designs, which led to censorship in certain regions, but critics and fans still praise it for its gritty tone, responsive combat, and raw energy. It's pure street justice with no filter, just how arcade cabinets liked it. Burning Fight. Released in 1991 for arcades and Neo Geo by SNK. This game was a not-so-subtle attempt to punch its way into the Double Dragon Final Fight Club. And honestly, it doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it swings it hard enough to be remembered. The plot's classic cop drama. NYPD detectives Duke Edwards and Billy King team up with Osaka's own martial artist Ryu Seiba to take down a Japanese crime syndicate. It's cultural crossover mayhem wrapped in denim and explosions. Burning Fight sticks close to the genre's sacred scroll. Side-scroll, bash punks, grab pipes, break vending machines, and beat down mini-bosses who look like they wandered out of a 1980s wrestling ring. The three playable characters bring something to the fight. Duke's a bruiser, Billy's a brawler, and Ryu's got that Bruce Lee energy. It's got 5 levels set across the neon-stained underbelly of Osaka, ending in a showdown with the crime boss Castorora. No jump kicks that reinvent physics, no deep systems, but what you get is responsive, punchy combat with solid sprite work and a booming SNK soundtrack that keeps the fists flying. Robo Army. So this one's a little out there, because Robo Army is basically what happens when 90s action movies, beat-em-ups, and junkyard cyborg fever dreams collide. Dropped by SNK in 1991 for arcades and the Neo Geo, Robo Army takes a slightly different approach from most of its brawler cousins. There's no picking your fighter here. Player 1 is Maxima, Player 2 is Rocky, and that's it. You're both half machine, all punch. The mission is to smash your way through 6 stages of robotic chaos and henchmen to take down a mad genius known simply as the Professor. Very subtle, right? Gameplay leans into the absurd in the best way. Apart from punching and kicking, you're picking up car doors, smashed robot limbs and barrels to beat down cyber enemies. Maxima and Rocky can even temporarily transform into an unstoppable armoured vehicle just to really sell that 80s toy commercial energy. There's a power meter that fills as you deal damage, letting you unleash screen-clearing attacks when it's full. Every level throws in a mini-boss and a main boss, all looking like they fell out of some post-apocalyptic anime. Visually, it's that classic Neo Geo vibe. Chunky sprites, explosive animations, and techno-gritty backdrops. It didn't quite become a legend, but with a 90s console revival and a cult following, Robo Army still rolls with serious charm. Crossed swords. Well, in this game, you're playing as a knight, and that's the whole vibe of Crossed Swords. Dropped into arcades by Alpha Denshi and SNK in July 1991, Crossed Swords is a fantasy beat-em-up that throws you right behind the shield, literally. You only see your silhouette on screen, like a medieval VR dream running on pure Neo Geo magic. It mixes hack-and-slash action with RPG mechanics, letting 2 players jump in together, dodge, parry, and lunge through a monster-infested kingdom on a mission to stop a demon overlord. Instead of button-mashing your way to glory, timing is everything. You've got to guard high or low, strafe around enemies, and choose between slashing or stabbing. There's even magic tied to your weapon. The game's structure lets you choose different paths, skip early chapters if you want to jump straight into the chaos. And for the story, a demon warlord named Narcisse has plunged Belkana into chaos. You, just known as the Knight of the Journey, slice your way through towers, warships and fortresses until you face Narcisse himself, who turns into a giant demon dragon, of course.
NARC 1,
Oh no, the knife, man!
511, in progress. Let's go.
NARC. Dropped into arcades in 1988 by the legendary Eugene Jarvis and Williams Electronics, NARC was a straight-up cultural grenade. Playing as Max Force, or Hitman, you're part of Project NARC, tasked with cleaning up the streets and taking down the grotesquely powerful crime boss, Mr. Big. And, yeah, things get messy fast. It wasn't the futuristic urban warfare that made NARC famous. It was the gore. Legs, arms, heads, you name it, flew in every direction if you decided rockets were better than handcuffs. But here's the thing. You could arrest enemies. Do it, and you'd see them float away like busted ghosts, racking up bonus points at the end of each level. Grab their dropped cash and narcotics, and your arrest score gets even fatter. It was ultra-violent, controversial, and way ahead of its time, complete with digitized graphics, brutal animations, and that war on drugs energy cranked to 11. Not subtle, not polite, but NARC absolutely left a mark. Spider-Man and Venom, Maximum Carnage. Okay, let's be real. If you were a Marvel kid in the 90s, this game was everything. Spider-Man and Venom. Maximum Carnage hit the SNES and Genesis in 1994. Software Creations adapted Marvel's infamous Maximum Carnage Arc panel by Pixelated Panel and published it under Acclaim and LJN. What you got was a red cartridge, for those lucky enough to grab a first print, a killer soundtrack, and a brutal side-scrolling beat-em-up that let you take control of both Spider-Man and his not-so-friendly neighborhood rival, Venom. Gameplay is vintage brawler mayhem. Punch, web, swing, and slam through waves of cult-like thugs, mutants, and monster villains across grimy New York streets, rooftops, and sewers. And if things got too messy, power-ups let you summon Marvel heavy hitters like Black Cat, Cloak and Dagger, Iron Fist, and Captain America for backup, tailored differently to Spidey or Venom. The plot was pure chaos. Carnage escapes prison, builds a freakish army, Demo Goblin, Shriek, Doppelganger, Carrion, and tries to drown New York in blood. Venom and Spider-Man form the weirdest team-up ever. Pull together a resistance and throw down in one of the grimiest 16-bit wars Marvel's ever seen. It's clunky, loud, and 100% iconic. Guardian Heroes. This one starts as a simple RPG, and suddenly you find yourself battling gods, spirits, and understanding the cosmic definition of free will. Yeah, this one's like that. Guardian Heroes, released in 1996 for the Sega Saturn, is a full-blown anime brawler fever dream wrapped in branching paths, moral choices, and a zombie warrior with trust issues. Developed by Treasure, yes, that Treasure, it took the side-scrolling formula of Golden Axe and Final Fight, added 6 RPG stats, and said, "Here, break time and space with your fists." You start as one of 4 heroes, plus a reanimated corpse who kinda just follows orders, all caught in the political nightmare of a corrupt wizard-ruled kingdom. There's Serena, a princess turned rebel, and Kanan, the wizard with god-complex energy. The story unfolds across branching levels, with karma meters tracking your good and bad decisions. Save civilians or slash 'em down. Totally up to you. Endings? There's like 7, maybe more. The game shines in its freedom. Players can hop between 3 2D planes mid-fight, level up attributes between missions, and summon a massive undead knight to absolutely ruin someone's day. Oh, and yes, it has a twist player versus mode with every character, monster, and even civilians. Still breathing? Because these 28 beatdowns were a reminder that arcade cabinets in the 80s and 90s raised us tougher than gym memberships ever could. So, if you were busy cracking skulls in back alleys or facing down mechs with your bare hands, I'm sure you remember these games gave us everything. Chaos, challenge, and enough pixels soaked in red to make sensors sweat. Got a favourite we missed? Or maybe a hidden gem that deserves the spotlight? Drop it in the comments. And hey, if this video smacked even one memory loose, give it a like, subscribe, and join us for the next round.